First of all, Tarkovsky is one of my favorite filmmakers, and he did one of my favorite films, Andrei Rublev, which is completely, it is really based on the dilemma of being an artist.
But you returned to Mexico with this immersive project called Correspondences, which one you make with SoundWalk Collective. And I understand that this project has like 10 years of work between you and Stefan. So I want to ask you, do you remember when and what was the first sound letter you received from him? Or how do you conceive the idea of doing this project together?
Well, we started really with the project. Stefan and I met on a plane. He was doing a project with the poetry of Nico, who was a friend of mine. He was looking for someone to read her poems. I said, I will do it. And we did this project, and we liked working together so much that we did 3 other projects of important French poets, Artaud, Rimbaud, and René Dumas. And then we decided just to do our own work. We did 4 poets, and then we just wanted to evolve and see where we would go. He and I both have very similar literary tastes. Both of us love the history of art. We're both concerned about our environment. We're both against war. We're both concerned about our immigrants all over the world. We have so many things that we're both concerned about, as well as the vocation of the artist, of the poet. And we had no plan. We just went in the studio and just decided I wanted to do something about Medea, and he had been to the country of Medea, and he played many of his sonic landscapes, and I improvised the story of Medea. I think it was one of our first ones. I can't remember now what was first, but each one seemed to either touch upon art, poetry, spiritual quests, our environment, nature, and we've now built quite a vocabulary and quite a body of work. This is only a portion of our body of work, but they are pieces that work together. We boasted shining skin, shedding it without a sigh. We raised our lanterns.
Everything started with Stefan and these sounds and visuals like images, videos, and then you do the poems of that. So comparing to a movie, it feels like you did before the soundtrack and then the script.
Exactly. That's true. He brings to me the soundtrack of a movie that's abstract, and then I give it language, and then we put another layer. We put the visual film, and another layer, installation components, whether it be rocks or manuscripts or photographs or whatever, and we slowly build it. I guess in a funny way it's built backwards, but it's because of what we do best. What he does best is he goes out into the world and he draws from nature. He will bring me back the wind. He will bring me back the rustling of leaves. He will bring me back the sound of boats on the river. He will bring me back the wailing of women, of radio signals, the ocean, and then they evoke stories from me or language, and then we have sound and language, and then of course keep building.
Yeah, and obviously it's like this kind of material he recollect of many parts of the world, but also caught my attention that you guys like talk about really important themes like environment and animals in danger of.
Drilling in the ocean and how it affects life, of our species, how it's affecting the radar and the communication of dolphins, of whales. There's so many things that are happening in our world that are unjust to nature, to humankind, and sometimes we feel powerless to change. Our governments are so powerful, and corporations and business so powerful. So what can we do in the face of that? Sometimes, what we do is just make, translate it into some work of art and bring it to the people to help them be more aware of what's going on in our world.
Also, I read in somewhere that obviously this is a really passionate project about these important topics in the world. And I don't know about you, but when the pandemic passes, I think we live in such a crazy world that people don't like to know about those stuff. We avoid like the bad news, and because there's bad news every day. So I don't know if that might let you guys think oh, I don't know if it's a good idea to talk about it.
We have many topics. I mean, we have a spiritual quest, the quest of the artist, the sacrifice of the artist. But I think that I'm the same way. I don't, sometimes I feel overwhelmed with the bad news of the world, but we can't hide forever. It's like a lot of people didn't want to hear about the pandemic, and then they wound up getting sick. I know people who died because they just ignored the whole thing. So people could say, I don't care if there's drought, or I'm not concerned, and then all of a sudden there's fires behind them, and it takes their house. It kills their neighbors or their animals. Sooner or later, every human being is going to be affected by something that's happening. Believe me, I would rather speak about other subjects than fire, losing species, and underwater drilling. But these things eventually will affect me. But as I said, we are also interested in the artist's quest, and we are doing an exhibition based on the components and the tools and the language of the artist. For me, the root is poetry. For Stefan, it's sound. And then we have, of course, installation, film, and collaboration. But if you strip everything away, how it all begins is sound, poetry and sound, which doesn't necessarily speak about anything. It's language, it's sound that's finding what it wants to speak about. We go in the studio and we have no plan. Many times. All of a sudden, he'll say, oh, do you want to hear something I did 10 years ago? Or I did this, all of this sound in Chernobyl. Do you want to hear it? I listen to it, and then I say, I want to do something. It'll inspire me to do something.
No, Patti, I understand that you did the poems in your home in New York. You just listen and saw what Stefan just sent to you.
No, we work together in the studio. He doesn't send me anything. He goes out into the world. He might go to India. He might go to Ethiopia, Russia. Anywhere he goes, he brings it, and we meet in a studio. Could be Paris, Berlin, New York, wherever we decide to record. But we record together. He doesn't send me things to work on.
Yeah, but I mean, you weren't there, in those places.
No, because many of those places, they're very difficult to travel. He goes up into mountains and climbs mountains. I'm not able I don't have the physical ability to make that kind of travel, but I am a good mental traveler. So when he brings me the sounds of the mountains in India, I can feel them. I can channel something about them and then, perform my poem or write something. I don't have to go to these places. He brings those places to me.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but also in this project you use some filmography from directors like Pier Paolo Pasolini and Andrei Tarkovsky. Why do you choose these two specific directors?
Well, we were very lucky because, first of all, Tarkovsky is one of my favorite filmmakers, and he did one of my favorite films, Andrei Rublev, which is it is really based on the dilemma of being an artist, and sometimes wishing to discard this vocation, what you have to sacrifice, the freedom you have to sacrifice to be an artist, to be constantly transforming everything you see as art. I love this film, and we wanted to do a reaction of it, speak of it, and I took on the role of nature and the artist. And Stefan and I, he went to the monasteries where Andrei Rublev painted icons. He got all of the sound. He brought me a soundscape, but we had no visuals for it. And we met the son of Tarkovsky, who had a lot of old footage that he didn't use in the movie. It's just discarded footage, and let us use it and edit it. So it was like a great privilege to do a poem, a performance in honor of Tarkovsky and this film, Andrei Rublev, and to have the actual footage. The same with the Pasolini. Pasolini did Medea with Maria Callas. We did a piece with me telling the story of Medea in first person. We had no visuals for it. And the Pasolini Foundation let us have all this footage that Pasolini didn't use. So no one has seen this footage. And Stefan is a very good editor, so it's been edited. It's a way to bring another aspect of the filmmaker to the people. And he's magnifying our work, and we in turn are doing our best to magnify his work.
Now I can imagine in 10 years of work there was so many footage and things you do. How do you decide which one we're gonna be in this project at the end?
Well, Stefan, I approve and look at the footage and have ideas for it, but I'm not involved so much in the filming. Stefan does a lot of the filming himself. I'm really involved in the process of helping to shape the piece, how to shape the exhibition, and writing the text or improvising the text. So it's really Stefan who puts the film together. I'm sort of an old-fashioned artist. He's very 21st century, another 21st century here. I'm really just, like in this exhibition, you can see I handwrite a lot of my work. I'm still writing in notebooks. I'm not that I don't know much about technology. So all of this high-tech sound, film, these screens, the light boxes, all of these come from, the SoundWalk collective and the people we work with, or Santiago, or who. I watch over everything and make sure if I think something isn't working, I'll say something, but they really take care of the technological aspect. And so we all have our job, a lot of this work, so much of this work, the physical aspect of the work is SoundWalk Collective and Stefan. But we are we treat each other always equally. There's no thought about, well, I did 60% and you did 40%. We just put these things together, and with our, in this case, our collaborator is Santiago. We all put it together, and it's for the people. When you finish your work, the work is for the people, and then it's time for us to step away and let the people experience it.
Yeah, like you mentioned it in the press conference, like it's like working like layers and layers, and then it becomes something. But I can imagine like working with so many people. I mean, everyone has a different perspective about things. So obviously, it's putting a perspective of a thing, and then another perspective of the same thing. What would you say it was the most, not say complicated, but like most difficult thing about like putting all this together and making it work like just a one piece of?
Well, again, I'm a very simple person. I have played with a rock and roll band or musicians, and I like to keep things fairly simple. But no matter what, technology is, you know, a key factor. So I do my part. I'm not a technical person. Part of what I do is actually show respect and gratitude to all the people who are working on everything. I do what I do, the best that I can, but we cannot have an exhibition without being invited. We were invited to Guadalajara. We were welcomed by the institution, the Minister of Culture, all of the people. Then you have volunteers, you have workers. I'm just amazed how everybody does their part. In fact, I was almost crying, and I have to leave soon, but I did everything I could. I did some writing on some beautiful rocks. I looked at the light boxes, got everything, and I was done. I sat down, and the floor, which is black, was quite dirty now, and I got chalk on it, and I'm sitting there. And then I noticed that someone, a woman, a beautiful woman, is mopping the floor. And in mopping the floor, she is given a dusty, making the floor black and shining. She has lifted everything up another notch. In other words, she has done her part to make the exhibition look more beautiful. And I thought, you know, people are talking about the technicians, and they talk about this, and they're talking about me. Here is a woman who quietly is doing her part to make sure that when people walk in, it looks perfect. So I'm very grateful to everyone, and I always notice everyone, how hard everyone is working, and believe me, it is always humbling to see people working. Because I'm well known or I'm an artist, people they're very complimentary and they treat me very well. But believe me, I'm not the one who does all the hard work. I do what I do best, but everyone around me is working so hard and doing such a beautiful job.
Now you mentioned obviously this is your first time in Guadalajara. It's not your first time in Mexico, but I read I think it was an interview actually from, is Santiago? Someone said like you and Stefan wanted to bring the exhibition to Latin America. You first bring it to Colombia, but then you wanted to bring it to other parts of Latin America. And you said something that really made sound of me. It was like, you think Latin America is a land where everything is possible, and you think that young people here is like the future. And I know you're so interested about the next generations. Why would you say is your perspective about Latin American young people?
I don't want to say things that, be presumptuous, but, with my band, we've toured a lot of South America, and we've played in Mexico, and the people of Latin America have, in many the countries have suffered and have to endure a lot of difficulty with government. They go through one revolution after another. The young people are always fighting and fighting for rights. Women are fighting for rights. And so they know the meaning of suffering, and they know the price one pays for freedom and to speak freely. And I've met so many people. There's always, in every country we go, such a strong, the journalists, the artists, the photographers, the educators, they're all very passionate about not only creating art and architecture, sculpture, music, but also politically making change in their country, each country, which there are so many challenges. And I admire that so much. And, it's always like that, just in Mexico, the history of Mexican art is always entwined in politics, whether it's Tina Madadi's photographs or the murals we saw today at Diego Rivera, or just the writers. It's like high art mixed with the soil. So I find it very inspiring.